All right, segment number 3, scandal number 3. That Justice Department grab of reporter phone records from the AP. Now, the story, which is still coming to light here as the details come out, this thing broke on Friday. Investigators from Justice obtaining phone records from the news service, as well as personal phone info from AP reporters. That's typically a move law enforcement turns to when all else fails. It's not clear if, or for that matter, how hard Justice tried to avoid using the phone records of those AP reporters. Now, this all starts from a story the AP broke last year, in fact last May, about the CIA thwarting a terror plot in Yemen. The source of that story was a leak from within the administration. The White House pledged to get to the bottom of the leak as congressional Republicans were calling for their own formal investigations into the leak. Sound familiar? Now today, Attorney General Eric Holder, who has recused himself from the Justice Department investigation, he tried to explain why such drastic steps were needed.
I've been a prosecutor since 1976, and I have to say that this is among, if not the most serious, it is within the top 2 or 3 most serious leaks that I've ever seen. It put the American people at risk, and that is not hyperbole. It put the American people at risk.
Okay. There's this debate as to both in a newsroom what kind of rights should be protected as absolutes, Congressman, and then it goes to the question of where should the line be when the feds say, out of national security here, we've got to find out who's leaking what here to protect this nation from terrorists from abroad or within. Who figures out that line? How should this have worked?
I don't know who figures it out, but I'll tell you this, if George Bush had done this, this would have been the biggest story.
I see you nodding.
The administration, any administration, always wants as much power as it can get to do whatever it thinks is necessary for protection or investigation, or politically, in this case, even stop leaks. There was a national safety component, but also there's always a political component. And when it comes to issues like this or other civil rights issues, the Obama administration has been even to the right of the Bush administration when it comes to the rights that it reserves for the office of the president. And this may be another one of those cases.
Well, one of the other things was, Congressman, that people in Congress saying, why weren't we notified? Is Congress supposed to be notified when the Justice Department conducts, basically takes records here from journalists?
You know, I don't know if they would ordinarily be notified, but I would think that something this political, you would want the other side to have their hands in it as well.
Oh, sure. Tell those people so that they'll act rationally.
Those people?
Those people. I'm talking about you and yours. Look, I'm not a big fan of subpoenaing reporters' records. It's dangerous stuff. That being said, let's look at the way this is being used politically. The same people who demanded a special prosecutor on this are now going, oh my God, there was an investigation. This is a problem, and it ought to be looked at. But when you take both sides of an argument in order to damage your adversary, there's no principled basis for the complaint from the people who complain.
But I'm interested, forget the politics for a second.
So are you taking both sides here?
Not me. I think it's a bad thing.
And this time it's Congressman Shays' fault for going political on me within the first 5 seconds of the answer.
Exactly right.
I'm really more interested in where is the line and who shall decide when it comes to...
Well, there's law about that, Richard. And the law says...
Well, it seems it's pretty interpretive.
The problem that's being asserted isn't that they subpoenaed the records and got a hold of them. That is widely viewed to be legal and sometimes appropriate. The complaint that's being made is they didn't take other intermediate steps before they went to that extreme step. That sounds like a reasonable concern.
How do we know they didn't take those steps? How do you know what steps they took?
Listen to me, I'm repeating Republican crazies here.
No, but don't repeat it and then say it's true. But we don't know what they've done.
I agree with you.
I have not heard the word subpoena in this. All I've heard is the Justice Department seized those records. If they had subpoenaed the records, then if they had subpoenaed the records, then it wouldn't have been a great galloping surprise to the AP on Friday when the story first came out. Somebody in the AP would have known that those records had been subpoenaed.
No, because the subpoena was delivered to the phone company. Everybody calm down, will you please?
I'm calm. Are you calm?
Okay,
I'm calming now, all of a sudden.
Okay.
I mean, you already know where I come from, the same point of view that you come from and Andrew comes from. It violates the First Amendment. It's a slippery slope that we should never go down. I understand the argument.
There's no First Amendment privilege against subpoenas in national security cases. Dominic.
Okay,
It's
well,
the law.
The sad thing is they should never have printed the story. That's the sad thing.
Who should have never? The AP?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, I disagree with that.
You guys are, I mean,
You
why
gotta
don't
print
you
the
guys
story.
settle this out yourself? I'm just going to sit here.
Rule 101, when you have a real knowledgeable source, you don't use your cell phone, because I told you this months ago. As a real journalist, go under the assumption that you're always recorded, or that your IRS returns are being looked at. That's just the rule of thumb. So you don't do it from your cell phone, you don't do it from your home, and you don't do it from the newsroom.
But Dominic,
you
Dominic,
make the
you
calls from another, and that Justice Department has to know that. Any decent journalist, you're not going to go, oh, let me call up my secret source from the newsroom telephone number, because then your bosses have the number. And your no offense, but your bosses will know exactly who you're calling.
But you give your
Why are
cell
you so
phone-
quiet all
you-
of a sudden?
you give your
you
cell phone-
cat got your tongue? You people?
Dominic, you give your cell phone number out to contact sources out there the same way that I do, the same way that every journalist does. If they call you and say, I've got some information for you, what are you going to do? You're going to run to your newsroom? You can't run to the newsroom. There's no payphones anymore.
Okay, for example, I've had a situation, I won't say which one. Well, I've had a situation where a mayor called me to leak administration, a mayor of New York City, against his own administration. And the mayor said, you can say sources close to the mayor, but you can't say me. So when I called that mayor back, I did it from a different phone number
appreciate
outside of
that.
the newsroom.
But if the
Mayor,
source
how
is
many
calling and
mayors
saying,
are
I've got
there?
information for you
yeah,
right now.
we'll leave the mayor nameless.
He's got about 3 mayors you can choose from.
The other thing is, if you're going to start clipping journalists for getting sources who are reporting on the administration, whatever level of administration it is, it's got I'm going to use the catch-all phrase, a chilling effect. You're going to have fewer people who are coming forward. You're going to have less ability for the press to protect their sources. And you're going to have less information that coming
That's
forward.
an argument that I happen to agree with, but you've lost it. The courts and the law of the nation say that the federal government, in pursuing national security interests, there is no journalistic privilege against what would normally happen. The complaint here is they went too far too soon, not that they did the wrong thing.
Well, can't I also complain about the law that I don't agree with?
Yeah, but don't blame the president or the Justice Department. Blame a system that has made a decision
The
you don't
question
like.
is Eric Holder going to be able to stay on the job? This one takes him over the cliff.
Who?
I don't
The
think the
Attorney General.
exposure's there as much, but I do think people forget a little bit. I'm with the congressman on one thing. This was not our finest moment here when we decided to divulge not only this, and when we make the argument, you want to go to the WikiLeaks, we don't have time for this. You and I definitely disagree that just because you can go ahead and print something means you should, and putting people's lives at risk just because somebody wants to be basically a little twerp. I mean,
You're my man.
shame,
As
shame on those
as
people.
true as that may be in individual cases, the society is infinitely better off knowing what its government is doing in the long run than having some wall of silence erected in the name of national
But let's not
security.
celebrate those people who put other people at risk for the right that we all do with works and all.
Responsible for maybe some people
Yeah.
being dead.
Oh, it's beyond whatever happens to Assange. I have no problem.
Please.
All right, when we come back here, he was caught on tape seeming to use race in ordering here who should be stopped and where. A tape that our fellow viewers have known about and have seen for months now. Well, today, that officer back on the witness stand as the stop and frisk trial continues. Dominic was there. He'll tell us not only what happened, but where we go in the home stretch here of this very significant trial.